Mexico overtakes China as the leading source of goods imported to U.S.
Here's a summary of the article.
For the first time in more than 2 decades, Mexico last year surpassed China as the leading source of goods imported by the United States. Washington. For the first time in more than 2 decades, Mexico last year surpassed China as the leading source of goods imported by the United States. Figures released Wednesday by the U.S. Commerce Department show that the value of goods imported by the United States from Mexico rose nearly 5% from 2022 to 2023, to more than $475 billion. The last time that Mexican goods imported by the United States exceeded the value of China's imports was in 2002. Economic relations between the United States and China have severely deteriorated in recent years as Beijing has fought aggressively on trade and made ominous military gestures in the Far East. Derek Scissors, a China specialist at the conservative American Enterprise Institute, noted that the biggest drops in Chinese imports were in computers and electronics and chemicals and pharmaceuticals, all politically sensitive categories. Overall, the U.S. deficit in the trade of goods with the rest of the world, the gap between the value of what the United States sells and what it buys abroad, narrowed 10% last year to $1.06 trillion.
This post received a score of 10,000, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
We still do this thing where Mexican truck drivers drop their trailers in the foreign trade zone in Laredo, and I go grab them and take them to their final destination? But only after I've dropped my trailer full of stuff that is headed to Mexico, so that the Mexican truck drivers can pick them up and take them to their final destination. Laredo is hopping. I'm usually dropping off big coils of sheet steel from steel recycling facilities in the US, and I'm usually picking up either finished manufactured stuff or ready-to-plug-in sub-assemblies of stuff. The best steel comes from old recycled American cars, the older the better. Steel goes from Grandpa's old truck in the back pasture, to Mississippi to get melted down, to Mexico to get folded, and then back to the US to get sold. Just strikes me as an all-around more symbiotic trade relationship.
This is the correct trend.
NAFTA finally happening.
That's great news for Texas, further solidifying our position as the nexus for US-Mexico trade. Whoops, nope, it's New Mexico. Our governor is a dumbass.
To be fair, New Mexico holds a naming advantage of Texas.
Viva Nuevo Mexico.
Good. Raising Mexico's economic standard not only helps the Mexican people thrive and the Mexican government function, but also helps the U.S. by providing Mexicans and migrants through Mexico more opportunities, and will hopefully slow the drug trade as Mexicans find more jobs available.
Also in these uncertain times, where international shipping routes are being disturbed left and right, land border trade between Canada, the US, and Mexico brings a little more reliability. Obviously international trade is important, but it seems a bit silly to import so much from across giant oceans when we have such industrious and resource-rich countries all on the same continent.
Good. This fucks the CCP over and creates a more economically stable neighbor, which should help give people there more incentive to stay put.
Until you realize Chinese businesses have been moving factories to Mexico for years now because labor in China is no longer as cheap, and it also takes advantage of the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement.
Still a net positive. It creates jobs in Mexico, cuts down on global overseas shipping, and requires companies follow NAFTA, which means more work for American and Canadian companies too.
Also, the costs of fossil fuel and other pollution incurred by the shipping industry are externalized to everyone. It isn't free to pollute anymore, but it is far cheaper to pollute than it is to clean it up, especially with regard to removing CO2 from the atmosphere. It makes sense from security, economic, and environmental perspectives to locate factories and supply chains close to the destination of the finished product.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.